Welcome back to World Information HD, where history, money, and fascinating treasures of the past come alive. Today, we dive deep into the story of one of the most beloved American coins ever produced, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. Specifically, we'll explore the 1954 Denver Mint Lincoln Wheat Cent, a coin that may appear ordinary at first glance but hides surprising details, untold stories, and in rare cases, extraordinary value. When we think about the Lincoln cent, most of us imagine that small copper-colored coin we've seen countless times in our pockets, drawers, or collections. It's been part of everyday American life for over a century. But what makes the 1954 penny special? To truly understand it, we have to step back in time, into the post-war era of the United States, where a rapidly growing nation continued its tradition of minting coins not just for commerce, but also as a reflection of its history. The year was 1954. America was in the middle of a cultural shift. Families were settling into suburban life, televisions were becoming household essentials, and the country was optimistic about its booming economy. Yet through all this growth, the U.S. Mint was quietly striking millions of coins, including the Lincoln Wheat Cents, each one carrying the legacy of President Abraham Lincoln, whose image had first appeared on the cent back in 1909. The design of the Lincoln Wheat Penny was the work of sculptor Victor David Brenner. His iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, with the president's profile facing right, had already become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. On the reverse, the simple yet elegant wheat ears framed the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, symbolizing prosperity, growth, and the agrarian roots of the nation. By 1954, this design had been in circulation for 45 years, and though many Americans saw it as just a penny, collectors knew it had a deeper story. Now, let's focus on the mint mark. The 1954 Lincoln Wheat Cent was produced in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Denver Mint, identified by the D mint mark located just below the date on the coin's obverse, struck the majority of the cents that year. In fact, the Denver Mint produced over 251 million of them in 1954. At first, this might make the coin seem common, even ordinary. After all, with so many minted, how could it possibly be rare? But rarity in coin collecting doesn't always come from the number produced. Instead, it comes from survival, condition, errors, and demand. While hundreds of millions were struck, very few survive today in pristine, untouched condition. Most pennies from that era were heavily circulated. They passed through countless hands, were kept in jars, tossed in drawers, and carried in pockets. As a result, they show scratches, wear, and discoloration. Finding one that has survived the decades with sharp detail, strong luster, and without significant damage is a challenge. And that's where collectors' interest begins to soar. The 1954 penny has several characteristics that make it stand out. First, its composition. Like all wheat cents minted between 1909 and 1958, it was made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Copper coins, over time, develop unique tones. Some turn dark brown, while others take on a beautiful reddish hue. Collectors often grade these coins not only by condition but also by their color: red, red-brown, or brown. A 1954 penny that still has its original bright red luster, as if it just left the mint, is a true prize. Second, era coins from the 1954 issue are highly sought after. During the mid-20th century, minting technology was not as precise as it is today. Mistakes occasionally slipped through: doubled dies, repunched mint marks, or off-center strikes. For example, a 1954 penny with a noticeable repunched mint mark, where the D appears doubled or slightly misplaced, can command a significant premium among collectors. Such coins are windows into the imperfections of the minting process and are celebrated for their uniqueness. Third, condition grading plays a massive role in value. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state, with designations like MS-60 through MS-70 for uncirculated coins. While a well-worn 1954 penny might only be worth a cent or two, a sharp, brilliant uncirculated example, free of scratches and with blazing red color, can be worth much, much more. The difference in value between a circulated penny and a gem uncirculated specimen is astonishing, and this is exactly what excites coin collectors around the world. But beyond its physical features, the 1954 Lincoln wheat cent tells a story about America itself. This was the decade when coins were still largely made of traditional metals, before the composition changes of the later 20th century. The penny was still solid copper, giving it both weight and durability. Holding one feels different from modern zinc pennies. There's a sense of substance, of history, embedded in that small round piece of metal. Think of how many stories a single 1954 penny might have witnessed. It may have been used by a child to buy candy at a corner store, by a teenager to pay for a soda at a diner, or by a working parent counting every cent to balance household expenses. It traveled through time, passing silently through hands during the Cold War years, the Civil Rights Movement, and the rise of rock and roll. And now, decades later, it rests in the hands of a collector or perhaps lies hidden in a forgotten jar, waiting to be rediscovered. Collectors often ask, how do you know if your 1954 penny is worth keeping? The answer lies in its condition, rarity, and whether it has special traits. If you find one in your change or tucked away in an old collection, start by checking the date and mint mark. Make sure the D is clear and visible. Then, look closely at the overall appearance. Does the coin still shine with its original copper-red brilliance? Or has it darkened with age? Does it show sharp details in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks on the reverse? These little details separate common examples from extraordinary ones. Professional grading services can also certify the quality of a coin, assigning it a grade and encapsulating it in a protective holder. Coins that achieve higher grades, such as MS-65 or MS-67, are particularly desirable, as they represent the finest surviving examples of their kind. Collectors around the world compete for these top-grade coins, driving prices upward at auctions and private sales. It's fascinating to consider how something as small and ordinary as a penny could hold such significance. But that's the beauty of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. Each coin is not just money, it is art, history, culture, and legacy combined in one small object. The 1954 penny embodies a time in America when copper still reigned supreme, when Abraham Lincoln's portrait stood proudly as a symbol of unity, and when the humble penny still carried weight in everyday life. As decades passed, the wheat design would eventually be retired in 1959, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse in honor of Lincoln's 150th birthday. That means every wheat cent, including the 1954 represents a chapter in a longer story. Collectors see them not merely as old coins, but as pieces of a larger puzzle, part of a continuum that stretches across American history. So why do people pay so much for certain examples of this coin? The answer lies in the simple laws of rarity and desire. While millions exist in circulated condition, only a fraction survive in pristine, mint-state quality. When those rare gems appear at auction, determined collectors and investors push the price sky high, willing to pay astonishing sums to own one of the finest examples known to exist. And that brings us to the most exciting part of this story. While the average 1954 penny may only be worth a few cents in worn condition, the rarest and most flawless specimens have achieved breathtaking prices. In fact, one extraordinary example, a brilliant gem with impeccable luster and striking detail, once sold for an unbelievable sum of $59,983.